Hello, okay. Um, as you can see by this nonsense happening here, I have built an origami add-on for Blender. I'm going to show you how it works today. I'm going to show you by doing this origami crane over here. I don't have a whole lot to say up front, except this has been a lot of work to get this going. It's still a little bit buggy, but bear with me. Hopefully you can use it for your projects, or if you want to help fix some of these bugs, the whole thing's on GitHub. I'll link that in the YouTube video for this. Um, okay, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to pause the animation, and first thing I'm going to do is just make a basic plane. Right now, it only works for the basic plane. It's because everything's based in UV space down here. As you can see, I've pulled up the UV editor, and that's going to help us with our crease graph. But our basic plane is the only thing that's working right now. I could adapt it later, or someone else could adapt it if they feel so inclined. But right now we just have this. What I'm going to do to get started, because I'm working on an origami crane, is we need creases along this line, midline, midline. So, because I know that you could drag, fold over, and I'll show you. I have this drag fold operator that you can click and used, and then you can see it's kind of giving you an idea of, oh, if that point there was folded over to this point here, how would that look? It would be folded over here, there'd be a crease there, and that's where the point would end up. So you could drag, fold, grab all the way to the other side, make sure you're getting right in that corner, and click, and then that would give you, basically, if this was grabbed and folded over to here, you get a line through the middle. That can be a little bit imprecise. I invented this for specifically doing stuff like a rabbit ear, where you need to grab a corner and line it up exactly in order to get a certain crease. For the basic stuff, we can still, if we want to just cut it in half, you can do your basic Blender operators and just cut that in half using a bisect. Then we do have these long ways folds, and Blender doesn't really let you do that. So another useful tool that I'll be using a lot is the knife tool. Also just nice and precise for these opening folds. So I'm going to grab a couple of knife folds like that. Everything should be good. Double check. No accidental over. Yep. Yep. Okay. So now that I've got these basic folds, the first out of the gate fold to do an origami crane is actually a collapse fold. And this took me a long time to figure out how to do it. The method I came up with was, I shouldn't speed through this. In order to do a fold at all in this system, what you have to do is you have to select a line of edges such that one island of the paper is separated from another. So this is the boundary of edges here. And once you have a boundary of edges, you can make a new fold, select whichever side you want to move, click on it, and then drag the mouse to figure out the angle you want. You can hold Control for more precise, or Shift. And then you've got it folded over. Now that you have a fold, you can use the fold timeline to scrub back and forth. And you'll also see down here, the fold gets populated here in the fold section. So you have groups of folds and folds. There's a lot to go over. I'm trying to do my best. So I've got this fold going over like this, but if we're looking at, and you could pull this up, if you're looking at an origami crane tutorial, you can see that kind of this edge wants to go here, this edge wants to go here, and then this comes sort of down on top, and everything's squishing together. So I conceptualize that as this fold. I'm going to play it again using my timeline. Here's the timeline. Drag it. This fold coming down here. And at the same time, so we'll go back to 0, 0. At the same time, this fold is coming over here. And when I click that, you can see it's combined the two folds. They're both in the fold group 0. They each have 4 faces associated with them, and these are the angles. And look, it kind of looks like what we wanted, which was to collapse everything down into one little square. Only problem is when I unfold, you can see that the motion that it takes to get into that position is not exactly correct. We end up with some weird shapes, some things crossing over themselves, and the end result is a little wonky. So I've actually created this fold interactions tab. So anytime you're clicking on a fold and it has overlap with another fold, excuse me, almost sneezed there, you'll create an automatic fold interaction. This angle for the fold interaction is not useful for this type of fold, not useful for a lot of different types of folds. You can ignore it for the most part. It won't come up today, but take a look later. But we know that what we want is a collapse fold here. So I'm going to go ahead and take this drop down. I'm going to click collapse. And what collapse does, now if you re-click this, you can see in the crease graph here, it's divided up the motion into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sections of motion. Each are defined by these little lines here. And if we scrub the timeline, we can see the motion is actually occurring much more closely to what it would be in an actual collapse fold. You would be tucking these corners in and pulling that top down as you go. It's maybe a little bit more geometrically solid and precise and not as bendy as it could be with real paper, but this is the best I got, especially with limited geometry. So that is our collapse fold. And that's one done on the timeline. Now, what we need is to do little creases where we drag these corners. I'll make sure I got the top corner. Drag these corners to the midline here, such that we have a bisecting line here. So I could be just taking a knife, right, and trying to cut and trying to judge, okay, where do I think that bisecting line is? And that can be good enough. You can totally do that if you're having trouble with the drag fold, but I like to use this drag fold operator. So you can just click, make sure you're clicked on a corner that you want to drag. Click drag corner fold, and then also, sorry, that's the highlight. The highlight will go away if you do an operator and right click, but I haven't decided an easy way to get rid of that highlight when you're just doing your thing. So I'm going to drag, I'm going to try to line this up so that it reaches the middle. Here, my mouse is going to be in the middle, and I want to make sure that there's a bottom. That bottom is just that one green square. That's showing I'm not going to create any extra vertices with this. It's just going to be perfectly what I want. So now you can see I have that line right there. It's definitely exactly where I want for this fold to come over to this line when I rotate around this axis, because as we saw in the preview, that's what happens. That line reflected through that axis gets right to the middle. So I could go ahead and try to do this fold now, but it looks like if we try to just get this section right and make this fold, it's not, well, first of all, I didn't say earlier, you have to make sure the last edge that you select is going to be your axis edge. That's where we rotate around. So I could do that and then just have it rotate. But as you can see, that isn't actually going to make sense geometrically, because as this moves, this warps, doesn't work right. So we actually need a little bit more geometry. So this is a bad fold. I can go ahead, go to group 1, which is the second group, delete the fold, bam, and then retry. So fix broken stuff. That's a button that you can use a lot. If anything ever goes wrong, try that button, and it'll reevaluate everything based on the UVs and try to fix as much as it can. So it's usually a good button to press if things look weird or snapping's happening. But I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the X-ray, and I know that I actually want this line to go all the way through to the other side. So I'm gonna trace it with the knife tool, like this, boom. And my knife is set to X-ray, and occlude geometry is turned off. So I know if I use the knife here, I'll hold phone, hold the phone. That's not where I want it. I want it here to here. Cut. Is there geometry here? Oh, well, we don't want this line. The bad line. So where did that even come from? There. Somehow I accidentally did another knife. Okay, accidental knife. No worries. Gonna do this. X-rays turned on. Fluid geometry is turned on. Do that knife cut. And then you can see already on the crease graph, I've got this like little ninja star pattern happening here. And you can see it's cut all the way through. So now when I try to take these two and fold them over, I should be able to do exactly what I want. So yeah, I'm gonna grab those two, fold them over. And that looks like it's right, but because this is completely flat, we don't really know if I'm grabbing the right side here. I could be grabbing the top or I could be grabbing the bottom because they're actually occupying the exact same space. So I'm going to double check. I'm going to look at this fold here and I'm going to trace it back. So I can see here, because I pulled it back, that this is the top because it's the part coming down here. It's still highlighted. I can have it go over like that, and then I still have everything selected. I need to separate this part as well, so I'm gonna, oh, that's not right. Is it right? It is right. It just looked funny because it snapped us back on the timeline to when this one was also still in that position. So it looked a little funky, but it was what we wanted. So these two are now moving the right way. I'm gonna have to go ahead and do the exact same thing on the other side. Select, make sure I'm in vertex selection mode, drag corner fold, line it up to the center line, make sure I get just that one green square on the bottom, click. I'm gonna go over it with the knife tool again because I know I have to. Make sure that's all lined up. I'm not adding extra verts. Any extra vertices in this can cause trouble if they're really, really close together because the system is based in UVs. If you have really close together verts, you can get a lot of problems with which fold owns which vert because it's all face based. It can get a little tricky. So there's a fairly good tolerance on it, but it's not perfect. So just try your best not to add a bunch of tiny little weird geometry where you can help it. I think that's the top. I think this should be bottom, but something is wrong. What is happening? Oh, it's just that I didn't have this selected. Okay. So we select these two, line them up, make sure that it's separated, and there we go. Okay, so I've been just kind of arbitrarily clicking around, putting things in different groups. Every time you add something to a group, the fold timeline will advance to the next step. So this one, right now we have 3 of them all on the same group, and then one of them happens afterwards. I don't really want that. So if I want this one to happen at the same time as these, I can just click the move fold up, and that will bring it up to the next group. So I can delete that group. And then once I'm on, let's see, 2 on the fold timeline, because we have 2 groups currently here, it will, anything I make now will be added to group 2. Okay, so now what they've actually done, and I keep forgetting this, I forget this every time I make this thing, I keep making it, is that these crease lines are not actually the next thing that happens. These are just drag folds, so these folds back and forth were just in the demo to create the creases. They're not actually there. So I'm actually going to delete all of these, but I hope we learned a little bit from it, and that wasn't a complete waste of time. The next fold is actually just folding this tip down. So I'm going to use the knife for this one. I'm going to grab from here to here, cut with the knife. That should already establish our separation, and we have the right axis selected. So I'm going to go straight to make new fold. Oh no, it's rotating around this axis. So I'm going to deselect and reselect that. You can actually deselect these two using a circle selection quickly. And then I'm going to rotate these around. And I use shift to get precise rotation that I wanted, but if I was at all off, I could adjust after the fact here. So 180, fold it down. And then, looking at it, we want to fold it back up, lift the top layer, bring the bottom corner up to form a petal fold. So the petal fold is a little bit tricky. This one was hard for me to sort of understand what was supposed to happen, but we actually, we are not folding this down permanently either. This is ending up back up. But what we do want to do is we want to take, I'm going to fix this. We want to take everything from this line up, like all this stuff, fold it up, and then from there, so I'm going to make sure I'm grabbing the right stuff. Nope, these two, okay, and this, like this. You grab all that, and sometimes this can be finicky. I haven't found out a great solution. Oh, reselect, make sure I put the right axis here. Yeah, I haven't found a great solution for deciding which layer should be selected. It is a raycast, so if things are directly on top of each other, it'll flicker between them. But just wait until the right thing's highlighted and click it. So as you can see, I do this initial fold and I've got stretching. And we never want stretching in origami. Everything should always be rigid. So I was like, how do I figure out how to make this lift up and these things turn in at the same time? And I look at it like, well, if this is lifting up and these want to fold along this axis, basically these both just want to fold in along this axis. So I'm going to grab like this. Is that enough? No. Like this. Is that what I want? Try one more time. Where am I? Ah, I'm grabbing the wrong thing. So I want this stuff here to fold in as this is going up. So I'm going to make sure it happens at the same time, setting it to fold timeline 1. This is our second step. So fold timeline 1 is after the first thing happened. We're working on the second thing. And I'm going to fold this inward like that. I think that's the right direction, but we can test. So now you can see as this folds up, this folds in along this axis and ends up exactly where it wants to be for the petal fold. That is not super intuitive. This, I think, is a downside of the system, is that some of these things are not the most intuitive in the world, like how you move them in order to get the motion that you need. Sometimes you have to just sit with it and think for a little bit. If this is being pulled up, where does this want to end up? What needs to be moved? I would have loved to do a better job with constraints and have that be automatic, but it's, for now, there's not a lot of automation here. You just kind of have to know how things are going to want to move together. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side, making sure I have the boundary selected. Oops, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that'll be my last one. So fold, bring it around and down. And so now we have this nice petal fold happening where it comes up, and it's a little, you can see there's a little clipping here. Also just something we gotta be okay with. This is a hard process doing all this stuff, and it's the best I could get. Okay, so we got this happening on one side, we want it happening on the other side as well. So I'm just gonna go over here, do exact same stuff. Make sure that it's boom, 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 boom. Use that as the axis. Move here, grab this, fold it the other way. Make sure that's that shouldn't be 165, it should be 180. You can also soften these numbers a little bit, 179, whatever. Sometimes that can help give you a little bit of space so that things aren't exactly together, but I found that for my purposes, keeping the numbers at exactly 180 is typically better. Things can get pretty weird pretty quickly if they're not flattened. So I'm gonna do that, bring it back, grab the right parts here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Set it back to the previous step. Make a new fold. Somehow that's not grabbing correctly. It's because I had the wrong pieces selected. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Rotate around this axis. Make new fold. Wait till we get the right one. Do that. Looks incorrect. So we're gonna go to it. And we're gonna flip. It looks like I had it just going the wrong way around. So I'm gonna take it from 180 to negative 180 and then try again. And that works. Then final one, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll grab the outside first. Make sure we're rotating along the right axis. And the axes are actually in 3D space, so it doesn't really matter if you are grabbing the outside of the inside here. Like if I'm grabbing this as my axis or that as my axis, doesn't matter, because at the beginning of the fold step, they're in the same space. So this 3D space is what's being used as the fold axis. So now, boom, okay. We've got it correct. We can run it forward, backward. Looks good. Next, we scroll through my my instructions on the side. Next, we're gonna do another use of the drag corner fold. We're gonna make sure we get the right corner here, and it's this one I want. No, it's not. It's this one I want. Let's say, am I upside down? I am upside down. Okay. It is this one. And we're going to drag from center, from here to the center line, and make sure that that goes all the way down. Okay. It's hard to get it right in that gap, but I did. Close enough. I liked it before, but it looked a little too far in. There we go. You can also do a pretty good line and then fix with the knife tool. I usually run it back with the knife tool, especially in this case because it looks like it didn't cut all the way to the edge. So I'm gonna grab a knife tool and just cut through and do the same thing on the other side because I know this is going to be symmetrical. I have tried to play a little bit with mirroring. There are some ways that you can use mirrors. You could use a mirror modifier for this and cut it in half, and it's a little tricky with the UV space stuff, but it can work. Maybe I can show that in another video, or maybe I can show that when I get mirroring actually down. But for now, we're just going to keep on trucking and doing the drag corner. That doesn't look right. We're not getting a good drag corner there, so I'm going to try to grab this other corner. Sometimes the ray cast gets a little funky with with the overlaps. So we're gonna go right there. We're gonna double run it with the knife, make sure we line it up. We're not making a bunch of new tiny vertices here that we don't want. And now we've got our crease pattern here. This all looks how I expect it to look at this stage. And now that I've got this selected nicely, I should have done this, made the folds on the other side while I had the right selections, but we can still do it. I'm gonna bring it around, boom. Bring this around, boom. And then we're gonna check quick that these are going the right. Well, first of all, I sent them both the same direction, so they can't possibly be right. So let's compare. 1 and 2. I want the top one to move up. So the top one is here, bottom one's here. The bottom one is moving down. Top one should be moving opposite of it. So it should be 180. There, now they're moving the correct way. And it could be tricky to try to select these here. Get off my knife tool for a second. But as I can see, I can just click them here as well in my crease graph and use that as my my selection. Boom, I'm gonna do the same thing over here on the crease graph because I recognize that these shapes are the shapes that I want for the sections I need. And that looks okay, except I did a couple things wrong. The degrees are off. Set those to 180. And make sure that they are coming from the right area. So this is the bottom section, and it's moving down, which is good. Okay. So now we're getting close to done on this thing. There's a couple of little things left. I'm going to have to fold it up and around like this, pull out the tail, and then form the head and tail and redo the wings. So let's see where we're going to go with this. I'm going to put on X-ray, because what I need to do is I need to take this section, that section, and then up and down like that. So I'm going to select, sorry for the stuffy nose, by the way. I'm feeling a little under the weather. I'm going to select these. I'm going to try to just, I'm not going to worry if I've got the right ones yet, because we can check that later. I'm just going to make the folds up, down, and we can adjust angles as well. I did make them all in different groups. I should have been resetting every time the group so that we didn't have to move them all. Save a bit of time, but that's okay. We'll just move them all to the same spot. Or you could have them happen sequentially too. Whatever feels more good and realistic. So let's run it back to when these are actually moving. So that's the bottom piece. So I don't want it to be moving up. Otherwise it's clipping through itself. You honestly probably might not even be able to tell because the paper's folded over now. And if you were doing this for real, you would have a plane that has both sides be, what's the word? They would have normals on both sides, so you'd be able to see the front and back. Double-sided. You'd have a double-sided plane for this, so that you wouldn't have any issues. So if things clip through each other, you probably wouldn't even notice. But better to have it right if we can. So these are going opposite of where they should be. So I'll make this one positive and this one negative. Check these. Are they going the right way? Yeah, that's the top. And it's going up. Great. So now I can make them all the way up to 90. Could have done it to begin with, but that's okay. They're doing it now. So what? It's not all the way? That's because it's full timeline, not all the way. Great. So from this point, we're trying to make a cut here and fold the tail up to the head. Or up to the, actually these are going to be the wingtips later. So I'm going to use the knife again. The knife is probably the best tool for doing creases. I tried to make something better, but I always ended up just using the knife. So take the knife, use it when you can. Okay, so now we have something weird happening. Looks like there's been some sort of error, and so I'm not usually afraid of these kinds of errors because these errors can only occur if this is a face ownership based system, because in origami it's just rigid panels moving. So no two faces should ever actually disagree about where a vertex should be. This is happening because there is a disagreement between two faces about where a vertex should be. And the problem, I think that's what that is. Or, no wait, this one's actually probably different. This is probably a small geometry, aha. This is a small geometry issue. When I did that knife cut, I accidentally introduced two very close together verts. So let's grab them and let's just merge them. So I'm going to right click, merge vertices at center. I'm going to assume that these ones are also broken. So we'll try it again, fold back up. Now it's working great. Awesome. Okay. So now I'm going to do, why is my focus option not working? Did I actually, no? Oh, it's because I'm not on edge. Circle select, grab all those edges. Still not enough, okay. Try a little more. Make sure I got it all. Deselect these, those. We deselect all this. Should have everything grabbed now. There we go. Okay, So now I've got these two folds. I'm going to put them together in a group because I want them to happen at the same time. Pull it back, and we can make sure that these are actually not clipping through each other again. This is something I'm having to do a lot in this specific example, but it looks like we have them correct. I'm going to pull them all the way up to the top. This one up to the top as well. I've got a visit from a very annoying cat. Get out here, Pepper. Okay. Double checking right now that you guys can hear me. Mic levels look good. All right. So now we've got, boom, this tail coming up. And from here, we actually are going to need to fix this again just to get rid of that. We need this coming down, this coming down, this going up, this going up. So I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier and select everything in the middle using my circle selection. I don't need all these other things selected. I just want the middle. So deselect, same thing, circle selection, but holding shift. And it looks like I'm able, that has properly isolated my islands. So I'm gonna go this way, that way, go this way, ooh, and that way. And let's double check that these are all where I want them to be. Ooh, I've done the thing. I do this consistently where I just go a bunch in a row without resetting, and then they end up sequential instead of in the same group. Default behavior is every time you do a no fold, you get a new group, but that's not always what I want. Okay, so that coming from that side should be that one. That's correct. That means that one should be correct. This one is incorrect, so it needs to go the other way. We're gonna, yeah, it should be coming this side, which means that this one's incorrect. Flip back this way. Okay, great. And pump them all up to 180. Sometimes they'll be negative. That's just because the axis is kind of arbitrary. And if it's pointing one way or the other, it'll be a negative or positive angle. It's not usually an issue. It's just whether your things are represented one way or another. 180 was too far. We want 90. I'm not paying attention. These should all be at 90. You could also input, but I like to hold control and drag. Okay, so once we get to this point, there's another funky fold that's supposed to happen, and that is that we need to pull the tail and the head out of the crane, and that is hard to do from here. I know that this, I'm gonna fix again to get rid of the highlight. I know that this is the tail and the head here, and I want them to rotate along this axis. So I'm gonna do a little trick. I'm gonna grab here, make sure that that still works to select it. Okay, something's a little off. Let me make sure I've got it all selected properly. How's that? No? Okay. Oh, I see there's some weirdness happening here. I can go back because I know that I had that fold in group 4, and I can look. Aha! This is what I need to select. But I'm gonna get off of it so I can see it better. I want these. I don't actually need these corners because that's technically an island. So now make fold should. It should. Do I have any extra? Is that 2 lines? Ooh, that doesn't look good. That could be an issue. I'm gonna try to ignore it for now. Usually anywhere we have doubled up lines is not good. Ugh, something's, do we have a tiny line somewhere? I don't know. Let me try this. How does this do? No, still no. Boy, oh boy. I'm kind of glad I'm running into this issue, just to show off how we try to solve it. These look identical to me. So what is causing the issue here? If I'm trying to make this new fold, why won't it? Why is it slipping through the cracks? Plus minus it, and then get rid of the middle. that worked. So unfortunately, I think there's some sort of small gap somewhere that I'm not seeing, and it's causing an issue in the topology here. Um, the way I fixed that was just adding to the overall selection and subtracting from the selection, and that I can't hardly explain why that works, but it does in some cases, and I knew it would. Okay, so now that I've got things selected the way that I want to, I can make this fold here. And oh, that looks weird. What's happening? What's happening is that we're doing a selection. We're moving on an axis that feels weird. We're also back in time quite a ways. So things are not looking exactly how we want them to look. So I'm just going to leave that somewhere. And I know I was in group 4 when I did it. So there it is, this weird 135-degree fold. I'm going to bring that to the future. I'm going to bring that to the end. Now, when we evaluate, it's going way over here. I don't want that. But it is the behavior that I was looking for. I wanted, I'm going to pull it ahead so that we can see the final result. So I did want this little tilt happening. So that's the little tilt, and that's going to be the head or the tail. I actually haven't decided yet. And we're going to go back to step 4. Do the same thing on the other side, hopefully with a little more ease. Just get rid of anything that I don't want part of this, because all the selection will be included in your UV recreation. Make sure that I've got the right axis. It's any of these. And then we're going to make the fold. Again, it's going to look weird, but we're going to go and rescue it from group 4, bring it to group 6, and then evaluate at the end of group 6 and just have it jut out a little bit. Now I know that doesn't really feel like real origami, but there were some things that we just had to get a little creative with. So now we're almost there. We're missing a couple things. One of them is the head, and I think I've decided that I want the head over here. So I'm going to do a little slice the way that it's showing me on the demo. And that's lower here and higher here. Boom. And then while that's still selected, I'm just going to fold it over. And if you really wanted to, you could spend the time trying to get this to be a realistic inside reverse fold. You could open this whole section up, do individual folds out, and then have that go in. But for my purposes, a little loop around like that is just fine. It's all good for me. Maybe I'll add inside reverse fold at some point. I feel this tail could stick out a little more, so I'm actually going to adjust that just a bit, and maybe this one as well. And see, when I try to adjust this, now that I have a fold afterwards, it's causing some weird issues. Is that the only reason it's causing some weird issues? Should be, yeah. I can angle it. I'll angle it out a little bit more, and then I'll say, what's going on here? Why is this so weird? And there's a couple of ways to fix it. One is I could update the fold axis, but the fold axis, I'm working on it. You know what? We'll skip that for now. Let's just reset it back to where it was. Or actually, let's just delete this fold and redo it. So when we adjust the timeline, it goes back to where we want it. We're going to redo it. That's the easiest way to do this for now. Because it was just one fold ahead. Delete that one. Get that to be 180. This is looking pretty much like our origami crane we want. We're going to do a final couple things with it. I'm going to make sure, I'm going to turn off X-ray, I think, actually, for this last bit. And I'm going to try to get these wings down. So, actually, X-ray back on. I'm going to do a knife cut. I still don't like this tail being that high. Let's bring the tail down. Also gives me more room for my knife cut. And I can bring it back up if I want after the knife cut. Gonna knife it just along here where I want the wing to bend. I'm gonna keep that selection like that. Bring the wings down. Boom, boom. Wait, I'm gonna remember it back. Boom. Did that not even work after I talked about it for so long? Bring these to the same with the wing folds. Yeah. Okay. So now we've got twist, boom. I actually don't mind if these happen at the same time as the head coming around. Like boom, boom. It kind of hides that the head weirdness is there. I could do one more thing, which would be to go in and spread this a little bit further. That would just be another knife cut down here, and then pull it out a little bit. You could also take this top box and try to do something with it. That's a little harder to do, but this is for my purposes a perfectly workable origami crane. I'm gonna leave it there in the interest of time. You could play with it a little bit more, but now you have the crane, you can head over to animation, and you can see I had other things animating before. And the way to do that, first I'm gonna get it upright for its final position, have it facing up. The way to do that is to take the fold timeline and animate on the timeline. So I'm going to bring this back to 0, and at 0 I want the fold timeline to be 0. So I'm going to hover over and press I, add a keyframe for that, and then go to the end of where I want the animation, bring this to the end, which is here at 8, and hit I. And then when you roll it back, you can see that it's animating on the timeline. Look at that. So press play, zoom, 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 bump, bump, bump. And it was a little bit of work to get that crane going, but now you can have it animate in and out. You can have pauses in the animation. You can use the full timeline for keyframes however you want. Pretty cool. I've got another example over here of a little origami human. I'll watch him go. And he like folds up a little too quick for my liking, actually. Let's drag this out a little longer. You can watch him go. But you can also combine with movement, rotation, whatever you want. So he folds up nicely into his little guy form. And then another issue with this is in terms of exporting animations, it can be weird. If you want to use these animations in Blender, it works just fine. Everything works great. But in terms of exporting, you couldn't export this as a blend file to Unity or anything like that. It would not work because of the way that the data is stored in Blender and it's being run by Blender in order to do these transformations to the mesh. So the only way to do this one would be to save as an Alembic file and a .abc, because a .abc is just a sequence of meshes. So it would save all the meshes in between the transformation states, and that you could export to Unity or whatever other software you want to use that accepts ABC as a file format. I won't go over doing that today, but thank you so much for watching. If you end up using the software, let me know. If you have questions about the software, let me know. You can add them as comments on the YouTube video or get in touch through GitHub. Hopefully, I had never seen a Blender origami add-on like this before, so that's why I went ahead and made this one. I think hopefully it's a cool solution that people will appreciate and use, and it'll be up on Blender for free for anyone who wants to use it. Yeah, let me know if you use it, and see if you use it for any cool projects. I would love to see those projects. Thanks for checking it out. Peace.